In a time when the line between government messaging and independent journalism can sometimes blur, one newsroom has stood apart for more than a century. Stars and Stripes, born on the battlefields of the Civil War, reborn in both world wars and still serving the military community today, it's often described as a uniquely American newspaper. Greetings. If you're new to this vodcast series, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine, and honored to be the host of E&P Reports, and also honored to introduce our guest today, who has spent his career at the crossroads of military service, law, and journalism. Max Lederer Jr. is the publisher and CEO of Stars and Stripes, the independent newspaper that serves America's military community around the world. Max, I have you as a former U.S. Army Judge Advocate General Officer. I have you serving during Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I have you earning a Bronze Star Medal for that service. And if I might say to you, as I've said hundreds and hundreds of times, when I meet those that give up so much to help us be free today, thank you, sir, for your service.
Well, thank you for your comments, and thank you for your respect and support of the U.S. military.
Well, it goes without saying, but moreover, you've seen it from all sides, sir. You served within the DoD, but you have decades of service in the journalism industry. What an amazing journey you have had. And we are honored to have you here. And most recently, you made headlines by formally publishing Stars and Stripes core journalism values in collaboration with the Center for Integrity in News Reporting, a move that reaffirmed the paper's 160-year-old mission to deliver impartial, credible news to American service members wherever they're stationed. Those values, credibility, impartiality, transparency, I believe defines what makes Stars and Stripes both respected and at times challenged within the DoD. When we come back, let's ask you, how do you preserve editorial freedom when your paycheck comes from the Department of Defense? And Max will be right back with us after this message from the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
Hello, my name is Walter Hussman. Our family has been in the news business for over 100 years. Journalism includes two parts, reporting the news and providing opinions. But in recent years, there's been too much opinion appearing in news reporting. This has eroded public trust in news reporting to the lowest level of any U.S. institution. To address this, we started a nonprofit, the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
The Center for Integrity in News Reporting, CFINR, is on a mission to rebuild public trust in journalism, one newsroom and one classroom at a time. We champion the effort to have news organizations and journalism schools create and prominently display their own clear, concise statements of core journalistic values. Learn more by visiting the Center for Integrity and News Reporting site at cfinr.org.
Max, first, as I said before the break, I said DoD, Department of Defense. I went to your website. You still refer to the agency as that. With respect for you and your job, how should I continue during this interview? Department of Defense or Department of War? What would make you more comfortable?
So you can continue to use Department of Defense. We recognize that as an executive order that is seeking to change the terminology of the department to Department of War, and that some leaders within the department are using that phraseology yet. But we also recognize that Congress has a say in this process, and they haven't completed that step yet. In our journalism, we also try to manage that concept. We try to make sure the readers know it's the Department of Defense, also referred to as the Department of War. So there's not confusion. So people know it's the same agency.
All right, then we'll stay with DoD for this interview. Stars and Stripes has been called, quote, a uniquely American newspaper. What does that phrase mean to you personally? And feel free to editorialize away, sir. You're the man in charge. What does that mean to you?
So it means a couple of things. One is we are dedicated to telling the story of the U.S. military community to the U.S. military community, as well as to the external audience, the United States audience writ large. We do that very uniquely from within the Department of Defense. My staff are paid by the Department of Defense. There is some funding that comes from taxpayer dollars to support areas where it's not possible to conduct sales activities, such as when we were in Afghanistan. It's not fair to expect a service member to have quarters in their body armor with their weapons and their ammunition, so they get it at no cost. But at the same time, we do have advertising and we do sales in other localities of where we do business. And so we're a mix between sales generated revenue as well as taxpayer dollars. That does allow us to sustain the congressional mandate of being a balanced, objective, independent, and impartial organization. So some of the things we do to ensure that we remain that way is we don't have an editorial opinion of our own. We don't have staff writers writing their opinion about what's occurring. We don't take advertising about ideas. We only take advertising about products and services. We don't endorse candidates or take ads that endorse candidates, allowing us to remain very, very neutral, which I think is distinct from most commercial news organizations in the United States who do take ads, do have an opinion, do endorse candidates, all those things that I think make it more difficult to be impartial and really today to be received and respected as a credible, balanced news organization. In addition to all of those things, I think what makes us unique is we do work within the government framework. Our evaluations go through the government framework. We go through the government contracting process. We go through the government personnel process, which makes some challenges. However, in our operations overseas, we're under the umbrella of the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act as a U.S. government entity. So when we're operating in Germany or Poland or Korea, we're not subject to the host nation's sensitivities, the host nation's rules regarding gagging of information or controls on free press. And that makes us a little unique than any other U.S. organization that tries to operate in a foreign country.
Wow. Okay, so it seems like it was a no-brainer then for you to make a decision to formally publish your newsroom's core values. How did working with the CI, the Center for Integrity News Reporting, which we use the acronym CNFR, and how did this all come about? What shaped your thinking and the process to put loud and proud on your website and in your publication these core values?
So as many of us have been following, we look at how the general U.S. audience looks upon media and the trust and credibility they provide. If you go back, I think roughly 1972, U.S. media was in the high 70% in trust and credibility. Today, it's down as low as 28%. I felt, we need to make sure our audience knows what we stand for. That's part of demonstrating our credibility and our value. And I think the values that we have within the organization towards our journalism supports that credibility. So I started looking around, who else is talking about this? Who else is formulating those ideas and concepts? And that led me to the Center for Newspaper and Integrity Reporting and what they were urging and what they were suggesting other organizations to do. In those conversations, they gave us some sample ideas and suggestions, but then I internally felt that this is an organizational set of values. It's not just my values as a publisher, it's the organization's values. So I collectively used my entire editorial department, all of my senior leaders on the business department to infuse what we thought the right statement should be, how we should present what we are and who we are and what we intend to be into the future. From that, I came up with my final statement that we then published in August of 2025, stating very firmly that we believe that to be a credible news organization, you need to be fair, objective, impartial in your truth telling in all that you do. And that's what we stand for. And I believe long-term, people will continue to see the credibility and value of the organization.
I should have asked you this up front, but let's get into the nut and bolts. You talk about meeting with your editorial team. You have the sales team. How vast is this empire? Where are you physically located? And how many work for you? And where are they all around the planet?
So the majority of the staff is in overseas locations. We actually trademark the brand in 36 countries. That is based on distribution as well as staff work. So we have people in Italy, Germany, the United Kingdom, Poland, Kuwait, Iraq, Bahrain, UAE, Korea, Japan, and other places along those lines. So it is very, very wide spanned. However, we also have staff in the United States. My core headquarters is in Washington, D.C. That is where the corporate leadership sits, but it's also where the final curation of the news occurs. We gather the news where the military is around the world, including in the United States, whether it's Lewis McChord or Fort Hood or Fort Gordon. And we bring all that information into the editorial team in Washington, D.C. to determine what is the appropriate things that we should be reporting in the final version. We also have the advantage because we're in all these locations. Our website is live truly 24/7. It's not like it's live during Eastern Standard Time when everybody's at work and then it's one guy sitting in somebody's basement continuing to post through the night. We have 8 hours of the website managed in DC, 8 hours of the website managed in Japan, and 8 hours managed in Germany during the working time and hours of those particular communities, so that we can focus the content on the website to the greatest percentage of readers at that particular time in their locality. So that gives us a huge advantage. We're about 450 employees. That is substantially smaller than what we used to be years ago. That's partly because we looked at how the industry changed and the need to get the content faster to the community than we could in the past. So back in the 1990s, we had a print site in Germany, and we put that paper on planes, and they went to the Azores, they went to Spain, they went to the UK, and it took hours to get it there. I looked around at the industry and said, there are all these other news organizations around the world that have excess capacity because they're not producing as much in their press rooms and excess capacity in their distribution systems. So now we've printed in Kabul. We still print in Northern Iraq. We print in Poland. We print in Romania. We print in Korea. So we go as close to the community as we can to do the distribution. And I do those on contractors, so I don't have employees doing that. It allows me to quickly spin up access as the military deploys to an area, or reduce that access as they leave that area without having a big infrastructure that I have to manage. That includes spinning up and reducing personnel who are doing the journalism.
Max, I want to touch on an issue that's directly tied to the mission of Stars and Stripes and your longstanding commitment to press freedom. As you know, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth recently implemented a new Pentagon policy requiring journalists to sign a pledge agreeing not to obtain or use any unauthorized information, even if it's unclassified, as a condition of keeping their access and credentials. Major news organizations, including Fox News, have rejected it outright, calling it an unacceptable infringement on the First Amendment because it essentially requires the press to report only what the Pentagon pre-approves. Given Stars and Stripes' unique role as an editorially independent news organization within the DoD, how did you view this policy when it was announced? Did your newsroom discuss whether to sign, refuse, or take a position? And Max, please hear me on this. If this puts you in a tight spot politically or operationally, you're absolutely welcome to pass. I want to be respectful of the constraints you may be under.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting nuance. The document and information and guidelines that was presented by the Pentagon to the commercial media was provided to non-government entities. Stars and Stripes is a government entity. So we were never presented that guideline to sign or not sign. However, of course, we've read it, we've followed it, we've looked at it, and we're not comfortable with all of its provisions. So what we have chosen to do is to move my Pentagon staff back to the DC office, but they are still participating and available to go over to the Pentagon for a press briefing or to interview someone that wants to talk to us about a particular aspect of what they do in their job or a policy or a consideration. So we're kind of half in, half out, but we've respected the fact that we haven't been presented the guidelines, we haven't signed them and agreed to them, so therefore it's not right for us to be going there without that kind of relationship. The entities that are there today have all signed it and have agreed to those provisions. So we think it's important that our community still gets the information, that we're still pursuing it. But at the same time, it's important that we be honest and transparent, and that we have not agreed to those guidelines overtly.
All right, I'm going to bring this thing home and talk about Stars and Stripes, its position today and its future. When I say we, I mean the news publishing industry globally has been having a problem making sure it evolves and changes to bring in the next generation, the younger news consumers that don't necessarily like the idea of even thinking of the word newspaper. I was very impressed with your digital delivery, and I want to tell my audience that when I asked you to give me some background on Stars and Stripes, 4 of the 5 links you gave me was video content. So you're obviously not living in the past and thinking of the printed page first, I assume. But what plans do you have for the future of the brand? Digital, mobile, social, what it takes? Because I have a feeling that most of the new readers coming in are young, and you've got to make sure that they respect your brand and utilize it. Am I correct in saying that, sir?
You're absolutely right. Our audience today on any given day is 1.4 million people, with 60 to 65% of that audience coming to us in a digital platform, not coming us to a print. And I should also, just as an aside, state, we do have a 5-day-a-week newspaper, but we also produce 300 plus additional feature type print products. So we're very, very invested in the military community, providing them information on educational opportunities, how to manage their finances, how to drive in a foreign country, how to get healthcare, and all those things. All of those products have digital pieces to them. We have 5 community being countries: Korea, Japan, Okinawa, Korea, Germany, websites in addition to our primary website that are designed to give a digital experience that's more local than the bigger Stars and Stripes, which is a global perspective. Like most organizations, we have some challenges coming, and that we still have. We spend a lot of time and effort continuing to update our mobile apps, the tablet and phone apps, and do better and better there. We need to infuse more video and audio into our product. Even though we have those properties, it's different than broadcast. We're not looking for a 20-minute video. We're looking for 90 seconds, 60 seconds, and telling the story in that format is a little different than telling it in a 500 or 1,000 word piece in print. But at the end of the day, you still have to write a script for that video. Somebody has to be writing and use that knowledge base. But the biggest challenge, I think, for most news organizations is the adaptation and the confrontation with how AI is changing news consumption. For example, one of the largest referring entities to our websites were search engines, Google, Safari, whatever. You would search for Stars and Stripes and you would come up with articles or source links, and people would then click on them and go to our website and get the news or information they desired. Today, you go to those websites and AI gives you an answer, and there's no sources there. So we're seeing a reduction in the source information transferring over to the websites. In addition, that AI information is not always accurate. So how do we infuse in the future into the AI world, artificial intelligence, good quality information based on good quality journalism so that those answers are correct, and to get AI in some way to leave people, well, where did you get that information? Where are the sources, so they can go back to the original source information so that it's presented properly, and do this all with a proper business model so that you can sustain yourself.
The same problems that every news publisher is having today. You're just part of the club, sir. Final question, quick answer. When you got to travel around to different bases and different places in the world, do you fly commercial or do you get to hop the military to get there?
So it's both. I was recently in Okinawa, Korea, and I flew commercial to Japan, and then I took a military jet from Yokota, Japan to Okinawa, and then from Okinawa to Korea, and Korea to Japan, and then I got back on a commercial jet to come home. So it's both.
You get a little bit of both. Okay, Max Lederer, Jr., publisher, CEO of Stars and Stripes. Again, sir, thank you for your service. In defending our freedom, and B, thank you for your service to the news publishing industry. Please stay close to us, keep us in mind, and keep us up to date on what S&S is all about, okay?
Thank you very much, and thank you for what you do.